Hi and welcome back to my channel. I am Koala and this is my little nook in this end of the universe that we call YouTube. And this is a series that I share in October this year. It's my contribution to Mental Health Awareness Month, and this is the last episode for now. So there might be other episodes later on, but this is the last episode for now. And in this series, these 4 episodes that I have been sharing so far in October this month, I have been taking on the perspective of how we are affected by the experiences that we have in this life, but also the experiences of our ancestors, and then in this video, our past lives. So, who am I? I've got to say that I am a shamanic practitioner, mainly within Nordic shamanism. So, in this video, I'm gonna talk about past lives and how that might affect our mental health. So it's mental health that is at the forefront of all of these videos, or even though I might not mention it directly, it is how we are affected and how our mental health is affected that is the main purpose of these videos. So some of the things that I'm gonna go through in this video is how we bring stuff into this life from past lives and how that works and what that might look like and what it might be. I'm gonna touch on the subject of curses again that I talked about in my video about generational curses. And if you want to know more about curses as a concept and how to break them, etc., you can go to my Patreon, become a free member, and the bonus video for October is about curses. Are they real? So, then I'm gonna also talk about how we lived, how we died, how that affected our mental health back then, how it affected our physical health back then, and what we bring into this life with those experiences and all of that. And then at the end of this video, I'm gonna talk about the light that we can bring into this life as well, because everything isn't dark and everything isn't gloomy. We don't only bring with us heavy energy and negative experiences into this life. Of course, there are some positive light as well that we can bring into this life, and how that affects the life that we live now. So let's get into it, shall we? So I have mentioned some keywords that I'm gonna talk about in this video, but I'm gonna talk about the topics as they flow through me, because everything is connected. So I'm gonna start with how do we bring stuff with us from past lives. Well, when we pass away, everything is stored with our soul. So when we come into a new life, we have a lot of things with us. We have experiences, we have energy, and that sort of thing. And the experiences and everything that we have been through comes with us in the form of different energy and energy blockages, and those are then manifested as different kind of behaviors or thought patterns and that sort of thing, and coping mechanisms in this life. So in a previous video I talked about how we might know if something is from a past life or an ancestor or whatever. And I would say that if we feel like the odd one out in this life, like we can't really connect what's happened to us or what we have been through or whatever with anything, not something that feels like the cause is in this life or have a connection to something in this life, and if it doesn't feel like it's connected to ancestral issues either, you might have done some healing on that and found like no, there's no link to anything that way, then there might be a link to a past life. And it can be something that you have carried with you from birth that simply makes you different than other people, or like you might have a way of thinking that is completely different from every other person in your ancestral line. And you might have gone back several generations to find that out, like no, there's nothing, there's no connection there. And it might also be something that just came out of nowhere and you don't understand. It's, like I said, no connection in this life, and it just kind of happened, or maybe, yeah. And you're like, I don't know where this comes from. I really feel like the odd one out, like the black sheep of the family, or maybe the white sheep of the family. Then that might be something that you carry with you from a past life. Because when we carry with us stuff from our past lives, we carry it with us either as blockages from birth, but there might also be things that pop up at a certain age. So this is something that I talked about pretty late in my Swedish video, but I'm going to talk about it now in this video. So, for example, early on in my life, I didn't even think about it that much, but I couldn't really see myself go old. I couldn't see myself live past 30. It wasn't something that I thought about like intentionally or something like that. But when I hit 30, when I turned 30, I had a moment of, what? And I remember actually sitting on a bus, having just turned 30 and feeling like, wow, I'm 30. And I could just feel with my entire being that this hasn't happened in a very long time, you know. And I just felt so lucky to be 30. So I had friends that had like 30-year-old crisis, you know, like almost an early middle-age crisis. There is something in Sweden we call 30-årskris, 30-year crisis. I don't know if that's a thing globally. But anyways, I had friends that kind of changed their whole lives when they turned 30 because they had missed out on this or missed out on that, and they wanted this out of life, and etc. And I was like, well, I'm just here. I'm here. I didn't know I would be here at this age. And that's when I realized that this is something that goes deep. So what I did was that I actually sat with all of that, and I went into the feeling to discover where does this come from and how come I feel this strongly about turning 30. And I realized that I had lived at least 3 lives prior to this one where I hadn't gotten to turn 30. I had died before the age of 30, so it was like a new experience for me. And yeah, it gave me a lot of insights, and it helped me a lot. And of course after that I had a lot of work to do that is connected to me being trans and that sort of thing, to really feel comfortable and to be able to look ahead, because there was, you know, there's a difference between turning 30 and feeling like, wow, I'm 30, and actually be able to see my future and see how I could grow old. And that didn't happen until I came out as trans. And actually it didn't really happen fully until I had my top surgery. And I talk about that in my series that I can put the playlist here for that series. But anyway, so that's kind of when I felt like I could picture myself turn 80, 90, 100 and that sort of thing. So it can also be like connected to past lives as well as ancestral things and things in this life. Everything is connected, and it becomes connected in a really intricate, delicate, beautiful way, I would say. Especially when you have the ability to really go into the dream time and into the web of life and see the web and the knots and everything like that. And when I meet people that come to me and we realize together that they might have a hunch beforehand that it has something to do with past lives, but to really see the knot in their web of life, that is this knot that is reoccurring from lifetime to lifetime, and it can be you know, manifested as an illness, it can be manifested as a thought pattern, or it can be manifested as something like having a spiritual awakening at a certain age, or the opposite, actually. So anyway, we bring things from past lives into this life in the form of blockages that can manifest in different kind of thought patterns, coping mechanisms, and different, some things like that. It can also manifest as physical illness or injuries and mental illness and that sort of thing. And we can bring in heavy energy from a past life that isn't really ours to begin with. And here's when I'm gonna reconnect to the curses topic, right? So when I talked about generational curses, I talked about two different kind of curses. I actually most talked about one, and then I briefly mentioned another one. And the one I talked mostly about, both of those are actually possible for past lives as well. And so the first one that I talked a lot about was the fact that a person can take on a spirit, an energy, a heavy energy, even something that they consider a medicine at the time, and then that can latch on and become a curse in form of something that is a heavy energy, a spirit that takes on a life of its own and follows the person through their lifetime. And in that case, in that video, I connected it to generational curses, that it can be inherited and how that can happen. So in this video, I want to talk about the aspect of it could have been you doing that in a past life and then bringing that into this life. So you could have connected with a spirit in a past life, maybe the spirit of alcohol or the spirit of a certain drug or something like that, and because you needed it. The most common example that I can think of is soldiers going into war and fighting for something that maybe they even believe in it and they really believe in it strongly, but it's hard to fight a war. You have to push through your own boundaries and who you really think you are to become that person that does damage to other people, maybe even kill other people, and afterwards you might need something to cope with that. So it's not uncommon in all the stories that we have about war and soldiers in books and in history. There are almost always, or a lot of the times, stories connected to that, with the soldiers gathering around the fire or gathering, in the evenings and drinking their sorrows away. And the stories about people that come back from war and become drinkers and alcoholics and that sort of thing, just to cope with life because they don't know how to heal from it. Those stories feel like endless sometimes when I hear about them. So it's not uncommon, and it's something that also brings shame and a sense of guilt, that you might feel weak. And that is the first thing that you need to let go of when you discover something like that in a past life. So you can bring that with you into this life, the shame of it, the guilt of it, of feeling weak and fighting against that picture of yourself your entire life. But you can also have had a life where you turned to something like that and you actually stopped in that life and you healed that aspect. And when you come into this life, you might feel, like, alcohol isn't for me. And you might be the only one in the family that doesn't drink at all, because you're like, somewhere in your mind and in your soul, you're like, been there, done that. It doesn't give me anything. Not really. I want to enjoy life, because you've healed that aspect, so you just don't need it. You could drink, but you're like, doesn't give me anything. And the people around you in your family, they might not have a problem with drinking, none of them, but they might see you as weird for not participating and stuff like that. And you know how people can view people that just break patterns and don't adhere to social convention in different aspects. So you could bring it in with you in this life, but you might have also healed it in that life. So there's nothing that says that everything you've been through follows you into this life, because then we forget that we can actually heal. This isn't the first life that people can heal, but how we heal and how much we heal in a lifetime is very much dependent on support and resources and all of those things that I talked about in the second video in this series, when I talked about how it might look if twins were in different homes, but they have the same ancestral line within them, and you know, all of that stuff. So the things that you need to heal, and you might have had that in one life. You might have had a life behind you that was really healing and wonderful, and you might have had the support to really, yeah, heal. And then you might have other lifetimes behind you where you didn't heal, and you went through hell, and you bring that hell with you into this life. So you can bring so many things into this life. And one of the things you can bring is this aspect of a curse. And you can bring, as I said, a curse that you took on yourself. And one example of that is alcohol and drugs. But you might also have been the subject of someone casting a curse onto you. Is that how you say it? I think I'm gonna use that term, casting the curse upon you. I'm gonna use that. I don't know what the proper term in English is, so I'm gonna use that. That might have happened. There might have been an altercation in a past life where someone cast a curse upon you and said, I'm cursing you now and forever into eternity. You're never gonna get rid of this, blah blah blah. I don't want you to ever feel happiness or love, or I want you, you know, it can be whatever intention. And in the video on Patreon about curses, I talk about what is needed for a curse to stick. So if you want to know more about that, go to that video. I'm not gonna give it time here. So no matter the kind of curse that you bring into this life from a past life, to be able to break that curse, you need to understand where it came from. So when I help people deal with past life issues, no matter the issue, the person needs to be present. And with present, I mean that the person needs to be engaged in the healing process. So for instance, I can clear heavy energy. I can remove the curse from the person. But as I mentioned in my video about curses, that I think it's the video on Patreon, I can remove heavy energy. But the person needs to understand where it came from to really get rid of it. And when it comes to past lives, the person that has the curse upon them needs to be the one, or at least be present when we cut the cords to whatever that is, and we release the person from those energies. That is very, very necessary for the process to really stick, because if I remove heavy energy, if I remove a curse, then there's like a hole after it, especially from a past life, because it's like you came into this life looking a certain way, and then we remove aspects of that because they're not supposed to be there. But that leaves something behind. It might leave an emptiness or a loneliness, or whatever it was connected to. It might leave something that you need to deal with in this life. And for example, if the curse is to do with addiction or something like that, then you still need to find another way to cope with those things that the addiction helped you with. When you release the medicine that you brought upon yourself and the curse that you brought upon yourself, you need to have something else, or you need to have healed as much so that you can be there and say, I am done with this, thank you very much, and goodbye, and know that it's not gonna come back. But you need to have done that healing beforehand, or you need to do that after the fact. I can be there for the entire process. I think a lot of, maybe not all shamanic practitioners can do this kind of work, but I can be that for the entire process. But you still need to be present. There are no quick fixes when it comes to healing. Healing is a process, and the more you know about what you're dealing with, the better. And you need to be able to visualize the result, or feel the result, or what you want to accomplish to get there. And those are the things that we can work on together, and that you should work on together with a shamanic practitioner if you decide to get help with something. So when someone comes to me and says that they think they have a curse upon them, I go into those threads that I talked about in the last video. And I see, okay, where is this coming from? Where is the knot in the web? And is it connected to past lifetimes? Is it connected to ancestral healing? Where in the wide world web of your life? So not the internet, but is this coming from? And we follow that line to wherever it leads us, so that we can untangle it. And if something is connected to a past life, then that isn't a curse or something like that, then there is a lot of healing to be done. Or sometimes people come to me and they've done a lot of healing, and all they have to do is have someone there for the final cut of the cord, so to speak, and make sure that it's not coming back, and put the energy where it needs to be. So when it comes to curses, when it comes to this kind of work, especially curses, I always like to be outdoors, because first of all, if I meet a person and I see that they have a heavy energy upon them, and I might not know at the time where it comes from, because I don't want to touch it, right? I can meet people, I'm like, they have this dark cloud over their head, and I don't want that in my house or my space, So to feel like, yeah, I can touch that and that sort of thing, I usually want to be outdoors, because I have the Earth Mother below me that really is there for us to take on and take care of heavy energy, no matter what it looks like and comes from, and the intention with it. She can take that and alchemize that into something else. And then we have the Sky Father above us that protects us, and we have all of the elements around us that we can utilize and ask for help in different kind of ways, whether it's fire or earth or wind or water. We have all of those elements. And we even have ice, that is the fifth element of the Nordic tradition. And I talk about that in my series about the 5 elements. So we can bring curses from past life into this life, and it looks like heavy energy. It looks like energy that is just, almost absorbed, but not quite. For me, that is what it looks like in a way when I look at other people. And do you always know if you have that with you from a past life? No, because the feeling that it brings you might have had that your entire life, because you brought it in with you. So you don't know what normal is until you let it go, right? So when someone comes to me and they have had an issue in this life, no matter if it's a curse or whatever it is, they can most often pinpoint when it started or when they started feeling off and that sort of thing. But with past lives issues, they might have been there the entire life, and you feel like this is normal, this is me. I don't understand what it is, but I do feel like different and that sort of thing. And when it comes to past life curses, and also generational curses in a way, but more often I meet this when we handle past life curses, and that is the fact that a person can be the most loveliest person on earth, a big heart, and wants everyone to be happy, and just wants often a people pleaser, but people might not give them a chance at all. The first meeting they have with people might feel like, what are you hiding? There's something off here. What is this? They can feel the energy, but you don't know that it's there, and you don't know that it's different from other people's, because it's with you. So that is one way to know that you have something with you. And then also, the bad luck in different areas and that sort of thing, that doesn't seem connected to anything that you have been through, and you might have always had it, but no one else in the family has it, and that sort of thing. And it can also, as I said, be something that just happens at a certain age, and you're like, what? Where did this come from? That most often has to do with just past life experience and lessons and challenges, and not curses though. So no matter what we experience in a past life, it's mainly what we have with us when we pass away that tells us what we bring into this life. So how we lived and how we died are often things that we carry with us. And how we die, if we die in battle, if there's an accident, if someone if someone murders us, if it happens naturally, all of those things is brought into this life, especially a lifetime that we had recently or that feel recent. So your physical being, the state of your physical body and the state of your mind when you pass away is what you carry with you into the next life. And I don't mean like if you are senile or have dementia or something like that, because my view on those things is that has to do with the body-mind connection when we reach our final days. Of course, we might have injuries and we might have been through things that affect our mind, and there might be an ancestral component to maybe Alzheimer and that sort of thing, of course. But when it comes to the natural degeneration of the mind when we get older and close in on death, that has, in my view, more to do with the connection between body and mind and the severing of that as we close in on our final days than our actual mental health. Okay? So if you lived to be 93 in your past life and you remember feeling disconnected when you go back into that life in the past life regression therapy, first of all, you might not even feel like that when you go back, because that has to do with you letting go of that life, especially if you died a natural death in that life. You might go back to that life for different reasons that has to do with how you lived. But so in that life, you might not take anything with you from how you died because it happened naturally. So I don't want anyone to think that when just because people get senile or a bit disoriented or dissociate when they close in on death, that is something that they have accumulated in this life or in a past life that they didn't heal, because that's not the way I view that. So I work a lot with animals, and when I work with animals, I often work with elderly animals, and it's much more visible when they reach a point of where I usually talk about it as they are on autopilot. And that is when they are still connected to this life, most often because they feel like their dad or their mom or their family can't really be without them yet, but they are ready to pass over the rainbow bridge. Then there is a moment of disconnect when the spirit of that animal has already crossed or is about to cross over, but the body and the mind is on autopilot. They are going through the motions. They are happy to see you every day when you get home from work. They might love to go on walks, and they go through the motions, very routine based, and you feel like, but they're here. But then when you think about it, you see that they aren't really here. And when I meet those animals, I can immediately feel that they are on what I call autopilot. And elderly people do this as well, but people are more emotional in the sense that they bring their mind and spirit back into their body to connect with the people that are still here, because the people that are still here needs that affirmation from them. So it's more often that people, go in and out of consciousness, while animals have that autopilot state more often. So, and then when they are in that autopilot state, it's just a matter of time before everything kinda deteriorates naturally. So I'm gonna end this video and talk a little bit about the light that I mentioned in the beginning of the video. If you have a lifetime behind you where you did a lot of healing work or enlightenment work, and you overcame a lot of challenges, so it's probably not a lifetime where you were like a nun or something like that, or a monk. It might have been, but I'm more talking about a lifetime that were filled with struggles and teachings and lessons, and you overcame all of that, and you fought your way through it, and you came out the other end feeling that you have healed a lot, and you have no regrets, and you die with an ease to your mind, and you come into this life with all of that knowledge, all of those insights, and a lot of thoughts about how humans should live and why we live the way we do. So when you're little, this can be viewed as you being, in Sweden we call it lillgammal, little but old. I don't know the word for that in English, but like a child that is wise beyond their years. Maybe that's the term, right? People kind of chuckle over it, or they really listen to that child and what they have to say. And the worst thing that can happen is that the child is not allowed to be a child, or doesn't feel like they can be a child because they know so much, and they might even get a little bit depressed. So that's not the best thing that can happen, but you know, you might have support around you. That's what I'm talking about. Like, you're not viewed as weird, you're just viewed as wise beyond your years. And then it might be viewed in another way, depending on what kind of family you're being born into, and the society that you're being born into. Because you might be coming into this life seeing people that has passed away, being able to communicate with animals and spirits and that sort of thing. And depending on the society that you are being brought into in this world, that might be viewed as you being possessed, or it might be viewed as you being weird or mentally ill, even from the get-go, that you're seeing things and that sort of thing. If you have parents that are supportive and give you what you need, which is to be heard, to be seen, to be believed, to be affirmed, and to not be diminished, but not exaggerate. Just kind of being left to your own devices, to just be who you are, you know. And of course, there's like a spectrum in between, and it can be viewed in so many different things. So healing a lot in a past life, coming into this life as a more enlightened being, can either be viewed as a little humorous and cute, or it can be that you really don't fit into the conventional standard of what you should be, you know, the box that people feel like you should fit in to be able to have a life with, we call it the squirrel wheel, the hamster wheel, right, in English. So depending on the people you have around you, that might be viewed in different ways, and it might affect your mental health. It will affect your mental health depending on how you are being viewed. So depending on the people that you have around you, if you come into this life with a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge and a lot of insights, that might feel different and be different and affect your mental health different, depending on the support that you have when you come into this life, or the lack thereof, and the people you have around you. That could affect your mental health in a lot of different ways. And then we circle back to the second video in this series about things that affect us in this life. So what we bring into this life affects us in one way, and then how we are being treated and what we are subjected to in this life affect those things, and all of this affects our mental health. So summing up this video and this series, everything that you experience in your past life, you bring into this life, except for the things that you have healed and that, you know, that you have learned. But you also bring in the lessons and the teachings that you have, and the insights that you have. You're also affected by the things that your ancestors go through and what they bring into this life. And then you are affected by everything that happens to you in this life. And I talk about all of these things in this series. So we've come full circle, and next month we are going into runes as our next topic. So November and December will be all about runes and rune magic, because we are entering the sun wait period in the middle of November. So I thought it was a really good opportunity to dive deeper into runes and rune magic. And in the new year of 2026, I will start a new tier on my Patreon. where you can walk with the runes together with me and learn about the runes one at a time and walk together with me. So there will be more information about that tier that I'm thinking of calling Apprentice tier in a coming newsletter, and of course on Patreon. So if you're a member of my Patreon, you will be the first to know. So walk in beauty, and especially this time of year, take care of yourself. Tjingeling.